Thank you very much, Anna. And first of all, before starting with the roundtable, I would like to continue to say thanks to everyone in this seminar, congregate in different institutions that are very, very mindful of the significance and all the problems that are coming towards this, for the questions that are really important, like, for example, those of us that we have to say thanks again because they have been absolutely welcoming when hosting this seminar, with everyone that is collaborating with this as well, and with the collaboration that we have had up till now, that is so fruitful and also so fluid and lovely, with a great communication. But we are also talking about human dignity, and we are talking about Javier Puente, for example. We are talking about some of the titans in this fight that is absolutely fundamental, not only in Spain, but also everywhere else. And one of us, I do remember that initiative, Political Network, and the association, the Assembly Pro-Life, which is also a huge collaborator of us. And when we find ourselves in this moment, there's no other option than to work together. The best we can do is work together, go hand in hand, and share our goals that are not only personal, but also for the greater good. And this is why this roundtable and this crisis, and for me it's a privilege to be the moderator of this roundtable. I will be on top of the clock, I promise. I will have to control the times, and I'm sorry about that, because normally it's the other way around, but it is how it is, and it's a privilege for me to be able to be here with friends, collaborators. We have had other opportunities as well before to collaborate, and in the defense of these questions that are really important. And we do share that the actual moment that we are living, as we heard already this morning as an introduction for this incredible video, because it's something that has been really well done in order to share an introduction to this matter. We are in a moment of change. This has happened before, and everything is in question, everything is questionable. And we're even questioning ourselves, the anthropology of ourselves, our dignity, all the institutions, and the sense of life. And this, fundamentally, is what is causing this crisis, which is a crisis that is anthropologic and that takes us in the way to doom, to disaster. And I have started saying that it was a magnificent video, but it is true that when they talk about this demographic winter, I don't like that expression. I like it better to call it demographic suicide, honestly, because this fall in the maternity rates and in our anthropology is something that has been searched for. We have been looking for it. We have asked for it, and in some cases it has even been bought by means of some institutions that have been working for years and years, saying we are a lot in this planet, we are too many. And I don't know which criteria is the ones that are the ones that they are following to say that, but that is what we have been facing for a while now, and this is what has provoked this crisis, this deep crisis and this analysis of individualism and selfishness, and also sadness that is forcing us into a dramatic situation that we are living, but that we will also force everyone in the planet to live with us. And this is taking us direct to extinction. I don't know how many of you have taken your grandkids, for example, to see Ice Age, the film. There was this scene where we saw the dodo birds, which are not super smart in a sense, like they didn't have a very smart instinct of conservation, and they end up falling through a cliff, and they go voluntarily one after another falling down the cliff, and they finally disappear. This is very similar in a way. This crisis, this maternity crisis that we are living, it's kind of similar to that situation in that film in a way. And this is causing us to be involved in this dramatic situation where life doesn't matter anymore. Human life doesn't matter. Maybe some privileged ones, their lives matter, but not human life in general. And an isolated society, an isolated life where links and bonds are missing, all of these references to our bonds, to our good things that we have in life together with values, all of those are about to disappear. And I know that we have speakers coming from abroad, and maybe they are not familiar with this, but there is an expression here that basically explains that parents don't want their kids coming back home in a wasted and state and alone. And we are going to end up being wasted and alone if we don't stop it, because this is a problem that exists in every society, in every part of the world. And we are trying to support life. We are trying to support development, our social development, our personal development, and for that, family and maternity are essential, not only for the replacement rate, which is far from fulfilling now and compliant with what it should be, but also for ourselves and for our lives. And that is why we also understand that it is so needed to talk about maternity, about motherhood, to favor motherhood, to fight for it. And we also need to talk about those bonds that are supporting and harnessing the good in us and the beauty in us and the beauty in human beings, and how we create different opportunities, different institutions that will make also development possible. And this crisis has these roots that are so deep and that we will talk about in a minute in the round table. And because of that, because of those roots, I think that it's time to go with our speakers. And in that development that Ana del Pino mentioned already for this seminar, we need to diagnose, first of all, find the origin of the problem, the root cause for this problem, And after the diagnosis, we need a treatment, obviously. We diagnose to treat. We diagnose to heal. And this is the development that we will continue to evolve during the day through these, I don't know, some hours, 8 hours maybe, that we have together. And we will have to find the beauty in families, the beauty in kids, the beauty in giving, because selfishness is never the answer. And the human being has a need to love and be loved. And when we understand this, we will find the way to revert this crisis in which we are living, not only in the Western world, but everywhere in our planet. And as I was saying, it's a privilege for me to be able to participate as moderator for this roundtable, where we have María Calvo, Benigno Blanco, and Nance. I will offer a very slight and brief introduction, and then we will have the interventions. We will start with María Calvo, then Nance. For those who are not familiar with her, she will probably speak in English, so please, if you need a translating device, please use it. And then we will also have Benigno Blanco, who I'm so thankful for his presence. And in any case, first of all, with María Calvo, I must, there's something that I must say. I am her #1 fan. It's been years and years working together, collaborating, and how Maria faces matters that should be probably evident, but in some cases in this world get lost and get tricked.
El buen fair play de María a mí siempre me impresiona. Y precisamente por eso soy la fan número 1. No se deja ningún argumento, no elude ningún tema peliagudo porque ve que son importantes y además me encanta que María habla continuamente de paternidad y maternidad. Y aunque es cierto que esta mesa es la crisis del sentido de la maternidad, yo creo que hay muchas veces que nos olvidamos de la paternidad y hoy hace falta reclamarla, la verdadera paternidad de una manera, bueno, pues muy rotunda, porque pobrecitos, porque parece que son los menospreciados del mundo actual. Con todo, no me voy a ir a la paternidad, sino a esa crisis del sentido de maternidad. María Calvo, profesora titular de Derecho Administrativo en la Universidad Carlos III de Madrid. Aunque no es al derecho administrativo lo que más le ocupa o a lo que más se dedica, con independencia de que esto es lo que es, titular de Derecho Administrativo en la Carlos III. ¿No se oye? ¿No se oye la traducción? Esto no lo puedo arreglar desde la mesa, pero sí lo comunico. Vale, pues mientras yo continúo, mientras espero que solucionen la cuestión. Comprometida con la responsabilidad social y con la defensa de lo que ella denomina la verdadera feminidad, participa activamente en distintas instituciones. En concreto es miembro del Consejo Asesor de la Cátedra de la Mujer Teresa Gallifa y Teresa de Calcuta. También forma parte del patronato de la Fundación Red Madre. Es autora de numerosas obras, entre las que destacan Orgullo de Madre, La Mujer Femenina y Paternidad Robada. Asimismo, ha participado en foros y congresos, como el Congreso Virtual para Educadores Católicos, donde intervino con la ponencia La Mujer Hipermoderna, independiente pero infeliz, dentro del marco Afectividad y Sexualidad para el siglo XXI, la educación del corazón. Porque lo importante va a ser oír a María, no digo más, pero es extraordinario, a mí me encanta cada vez que la escucho. Pero les decía que presento a todos los ponentes. Penny Nance, CEO de Concerned Women for America. Es directora ejecutiva y presidenta de esta institución, la mayor organización de políticas públicas para mujeres del país. Está considerada una autoridad nacional en cuestiones culturales de infancia y de mujeres. Dirige una amplia red de más de 500.000 miembros en todo Estados Unidos, entre los que se incluyen más de 400 influencers cristianos y más de 267 presidentas embajadoras de Young Women for America. Además, preside el Comité de Acción Legislativa de Concerned Women for America y actúa como principal portavoz de ambas entidades. Graduada por Liberty University en Leesburg, Virginia, donde actualmente forma parte del Consejo de Administración, su liderazgo ha sido reconocido por distintos medios y organizaciones. The Christian Post la señaló como una de las 4 voces pro vida femeninas más influyentes. Ahí es nada. Newsmark la incluyó entre los 100 evangélicos más influyentes de Estados Unidos e Israel Allies Foundation la reconoció como una de las 50 principales aliadas cristianas de Israel. Y en los últimos años se ha consolidado como una figura destacada en el ámbito del mensaje y las políticas pro vida. En aquel país, a mí me hace mucha gracia porque nosotros hemos de alguna manera asumido esa terminología de pro-life y pro-choice cuando no sé por qué, porque esto de pro-choice será pro-choice para algunos, porque evidentemente para otros no hay ningún choice. Y entonces creo que también es necesario el cambiar ese lenguaje. En cualquier caso, con este panorama del invierno y del suicidio demográfico, esa constante actividad, esa voz pro vida es no solo necesaria, sino yo creo que una exigencia para cualquier persona de sentido común. Muchísimas gracias, Nance. Y por fin Benigno Blanco, al que les decía que tengo que agradecer especialmente, porque en una defensa de la maternidad, de la natalidad, de la vida, también le decía, pero no nos tiene que costar la vida aquí y ahora. Y mi agradecimiento a Benigno es
And I'm very thankful to Benigno for being here with us today. Benigno Blanco. He is quite sick, I must say, and however, he managed to make it here and still attend, and I am very thankful for his efforts because we have been collaborating for a long time already. We have always been pro-life in different institutions, and also the Association of Christian Propagandists and Political Network and other associations where we have said our work in common, and we not only share that, we also share our views, and we have set opportunities. He's also the president for the Forum for Family, el Foro Español de la Familia, the Family Forum in Spain. He's a very important figure there. It's important to have families united, of course, for this matters and in this kind of crisis. And he's also the Secretary of State in Water and infrastructures. He has been part of the government in different occasions, and he has been lucky to help with his political views as well. He is a bachelor's degree in law, and he has finished his studies a long time ago, but then he studied in the Department of Administrative Law in the Faculty of Law, and he also directed a law firm in Gijón, in the north of Spain, and he also participated in the regional government in Asturias. He has been part of the services in Iberdrola as well as councillor, and also as councillor he has acted in the parliament in Spain, and he has incorporated his help as well to the government, which is an impressive curriculum moment, honestly. And as we were saying, he has a vocation for politics, he has a vocation for help. We have talked about the Christianity Propagandist Association, and we know that it's also important to have fought other battles in order to be able to help the most that we can. And in some cases, we feel that we can't reach as much as we would like to, but we try to continue going forward and taking steps forward. When we find ourselves finally in the position to help is when we need to grab those opportunities, as for example, it has happened with Benigno in his role with the government. And finally, at the end of the day, all questions, all matters are related because the environment, the climate change, if we don't have our people, if we are not united, everything will be at risk. So the important thing here is to focus on that anthropological view, to see that there is an environment that is at the service of the people, and that people have also to acknowledge and have taken care of. And that's why we need to take care of our mothers and our motherhood and help everyone navigate this crisis. And Maria, first of all, I turn to you and I would like to offer you the floor. Good morning, everyone, and thanks to the associations that have allowed us to have this incredible opportunity to participate in this seminar. Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you, Theo. How would I not like to come here, because it's an amazing opportunity, and it was a lovely presentation and a lovely introduction. Thank you for your words. This is my second home. When we talk about maternity, we talk about women, and we talk about our essence. And this is what makes us what we do. And this is what makes us what we are. And we don't use the word damsel anymore, right? But the beauty of our young women is precisely to be able to become mothers in a way. And this is something that we don't see nowadays so often, that every woman has that claim inside of her, that asking inside of her, becoming a mother. Either we want it or not, we are ready to become mothers. And there is this incredible psychologist coming from Italy that says that psychologically and subjectively, women are made of two different sides: an erotic part that lives as a woman and as a partner, that feels the self, but there's also a mother inside of every woman that is also intrinsically involved in every single cell of our bodies, and we are ready to bring life to this world. And this is how we are ready, and this is how we know that nature takes over, and this is how we know that we can develop this sexuality that makes us different in our behavior with men, for example. And this is just Jutta Burggraf mentioned that this is what humanizes society as well. And we need to modernize society. I know it's a weird expression, but this is what we have to do. We have to make the society understand how difficult it might be to become a mom. And every woman that has become a mother here knows perfectly fine that it's not always easy. It could be something that biologically is a beautiful experience, and it could be also tied to our spirituality. And sometimes we can't even feel like a mother without been necessarily tied to the physical part of it. We can feel like a mother in some cases. We know the maternity is something that is felt, and it's something that we are losing. And they have made us believe that this psychological and feeling that is embedded in us is not something good. They have made us feel that it's a burden for our professional life, for example, for our careers. And this is something that they have made up in the hopes of making us feel subdued. And they try to estrange us from that motherhood that we have in ourselves, and they try to deplete us from that part of us, and they try to supplement our erotic part, our sexual part, our sexual feeling. And being a mother, becoming a mother, is something that we do out of love that transcends ourselves, that is coming from beyond of our bodies, and a erotic development without the motherhood that we have is something that we don't that we can't really understand, that we can't really support, because we lose ourselves in the individualism, in the hedonism. And it's just impossible to understand how we can become full women without understanding this.
Experiencias también sexuales constantes en esta turbotemporalidad, todo muy rápido porque la capa de hielo es muy fina y si paramos
everything goes so fast, and then if we stop and be introspective, that woman breaks and she's got loneliness inside, as she has lost the bonds. The Infertility Institute of Valencia carried out a survey to women between 23 and 42 years of age. A high proportion of them mentioned that they didn't want to have children. They are known as the non-mothers. When they were asked about the reasons why, actually the report puts them as adventurous women that own their destiny, those adventurous women. Although maternity is the most impressive adventure you may take on, they say that they never ever want to have children nor a partner, as they feel oppressed by men. They say they want their time and their freedom, my time and my freedom. But time with no children needs to be filled through consumerism, through hyperactivism. But time is given love. There is no other manifestation of love of giving time, giving your time, losing your time, wasting your time with others. I remember my mom says, okay, please, waste a bit of your time with me. We understand our parents when we do have children. My mom used to say, Maria, please waste some of your time with me. John Paul II says, those who are not ready to love, they will never love a single day of their lives. And my freedom, those women are not aware that freedom with no bonds is slavery. They end up in the slavery of my self-referential me, my basic instincts. When we give up part of our essence, we become more animalized. We are at a time where we need to acknowledge that we have been deceived. We are transforming our rights into our wishes into rights. I just don't want to have a child. I have a right to get an abortion. It would be terrible to make that right, as the children who would be born would go into endless death Thank you, Mom, because I was born because you did not exercise your right to abortion. The greatest type of violence is known as abortion. So it is like the pagan rites where children were sacrificed for a better crop. And now, ignoring all kind of abortion is extirpating the son that is in the body of the man. It is an irreversible fracture in the heart of the mom. It is delayed guilt, a bomb that will explode sooner or later, but it will explode. By transforming those wishes into rights, we go into a paradox. We live in a life characterized by paradox. Out of a sudden, I wish a child, the right to have a child. And then big companies allow us to freeze our eggs, which is terrible. So the woman now is appropriate, owns the process of generating life. We own life, which is a perversion of motherhood, because motherhood is absolute generosity, freedom, getting rid of things, decentralization, never possession or appropriation. We appropriate, we own life, and we decide when to bring life to the world. We may freeze our eggs, even when we are not generative, biologically speaking. The Ecclesiastes book says there is a time for everything. There is a timing for anything, for everything. There is a time to be born, to die, and to bring children to this life. Women may also decide how to bring their children to the world with no father, with no love, with no sex. Only gods could do that in the classic Greek. Nowadays, women can do that as well. We have become goddesses, and we decide on the process of maternity with no parents, with no fathers, with no roots. The child will be the son of an anonymous donor, but the child will not have a germ line, has no grandfather, has no great-grandfather, has no roots. Uncertainty about the roots. As Simone Weil says, the need to have roots. That's the most important need for human beings, and also the most ignored. We are genealogical beings. We are made of history. We have replaced genealogy by technology. And those kids, when they would look back, they will see nothing. They will see a black hole, vacuum, darkness. That is terrible. That leads to neurosis. But not only that, the child loses his freedom under these conditions. As the Spanish National Society for Bioethics warns, we need to be very careful when we need to transform our wish into a right. The child should not be a thing that we consume to keep us accompanied in that loneliness that we just refer. I just don't want any bonds, I just don't want men, they are perverted, and now when I have academic success, all type of success, now I want a child. I want a child who accompanies me, who fulfills me. So that son is not born through freedom, and then needs to fulfill a purpose, that is to say, makes sense to the life of mother. Children should not be there to give a purpose to our life. They should rebel themselves. They should rebel themselves. That is necessary. They need to detach themselves. They need to have their own family, and they should leave us alone, and if we have a good partner, we will be happy. We have been deceived. We have been deceived greatly. Motherhood does not make us slaves. It frees us, because it frees us from ourselves. As Eugenio Marín says, freedom is what those that give themselves out own. And mothers are the ones that give out the most. So there is no one that is more freedom than those, more free than those that give themselves to love. Nothing makes you ready to become a mother, but being a mother prepares you for everything. Society needs mothers. Child is always a gift, an unexpected surprise, otherness. It is different from me. It is not my appendix. It is not my body. It's a different being. The child is a gift to a mother. But it is just incredible for mothers not to see that. Mothers are a gift to society, absolute gifts to society. Well, either the spiritual or biological motherhood, when you accept motherhood, we get rid of mediocrity. Motherhood is a tremendous power. It empowers us to transform the world. We need to transform the world. As Massimo Recalcati says, psychoanalyst from the Milan School, the arrival of a new creature that needs his freedom is always the renewal with no return of the earth. The world is no longer the same. That's why Hannah Arendt says the fertility, natality, birth will save the world, because it is about the arrival of new men and women to give us as a gift a new beginning. The arrival of primitive men that come from the start of times. They have a new vision of life. And as Fabrice Haya says, we really need to procreate. The more apocalyptic the world, the more it makes sense to create life, because our children do not come as just one more beings. They are here to renew the earth, to give us a new start, a new beginning. That's why motherhood is necessary. Motherhood without fatherhood is very complicated. It is very complex. Fathers also frees us. Do not make us slaves. Balance that father give us protection and freedom. Father frees, as Carmen says before, drunk and alone. I want to come back home drunk and alone, as the ministers say. We may get drunk, but not alone. If I come back accompanied by a nice man, I can be more drunk. I can get home much later. I can walk through dark streets, that is to say, with more freedom, so that men gives us freedom and fathers give freedom because to the kids, because it frees them from us. We mothers may be very limiting. We love our children so much.
Hay una fusión primaria con la madre que el padre tiene que provocar una ruptura. Sin separación no hay crecimiento. Al padre le corresponde desmaternizar a los hijos para que vuelen, para que sean libres, independientes, autónomos, generen una nueva vida. Pero el padre nos libera a nosotras. ¡Qué ceguera! Un padre que entra en el hogar, y hoy en día los hombres, esta generación maravillosa, está dispuesta a entrar en el hogar, nos permite salir a nosotras y además nos recuerda, no eres solo madre. El peligro de transformarnos en solo madre, todo madre, demasiado madre, que también pasa. Nos enamoramos de nuestros hijos y se convierten en el centro de nuestra vida y llevamos una vida niñocéntrica, y esto es un error. Una madre al 100% no es una buena madre. Y entonces el hombre, el marido, nos recuerda, no eres solo madre, eres ante todo y sobre todo esposa primero. Primero esposa, luego madre. Primero esposa. Y eso nos permitirá, cuando los hijos se vayan, quedarnos en pareja solos y felices. Porque el padre y la madre, la alteridad sexual es necesaria para otorgar el único legado válido que podemos dejar a los hijos, que, como decía Goethe, es raíces y alas. Raíces, ese matrimonio, esa familia imperfecta. Esto es un caos, lo sabéis todos los que tenéis familia, lo sabemos. Conflictos, vuelan los platos, es un campo de batalla permanentemente. Pero es donde nuestros hijos adquieren identidad, estabilidad, sentido de pertenencia, raíces. ¿Y todo esto para qué? Para volar, para que se vayan, por favor. Que se vayan, que se marchen. Cuando sea el momento oportuno, evidentemente. Pero que se vayan. Porque los hijos tienen que volar. La familia es pertenencia, pero es errancia, es procedencia, pero es porvenir. Y ser genitores de la vida no nos hace sus propietarios. La maternidad es hospitalidad sin propiedad. Y la paternidad debe ser responsabilidad sin propiedad. Y que se vayan por caminos inesperados, que saboreen el desierto, que se extravíen para encontrarse, pero que siempre sean conscientes de que pueden volver y encontrarnos al hombre y a la mujer, al padre y la madre, firmes en el amor, pase lo que pase. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, María. Libertad, amor, hogar, complementariedad y al mismo tiempo, bueno, muchísimas ideas. Y esto nos da paso a la intervención de Nance, que también, bueno, pues hablará acerca de todas estas cuestiones. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me. Can you hear me okay? Is it got it? Okay, great. I'm the president and CEO in the United States of an organization called, it's on. Yeah, maybe like this. Is that better? Okay, how about that? Okay, good. I'm the CEO and president of an organization in the United States called Concerned Women for America. We have about 1.5 million members around the entire nation, including our Young Women for America collegiate chapters. We have about 400 chapters on college campuses across the nation. And I have to say, I'm very encouraged. I wish they all could have heard Maria. What a beautiful, beautiful exposition on motherhood, Maria. That was beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. It really is an honor for me to get to come to Spain. It's my first trip to Spain, and my husband and I have just fallen in love with your country. Really, everywhere I look, you have beautiful, soaring cathedrals that are a testimony to faith and to the reality of your love of your country and the Holy Mother everywhere I look. And so I think it's only fitting that we're talking about motherhood here. And I think what we're seeing today, not just in Spain, not just in the United States, but around the world, is the natural consequence of faulty reasoning and poor ideology. And when you believe that, when you disrespect life, you think that life is disposable, at the other end of that is a loss of children and a loss of life. And in the United States, we have particularly come up against an issue that is really a fight against the unique dignity of women. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But I was asked specifically to tell you about Concerned Women for America because I would love to tell all of you how to replicate that in your own countries. Because it's not, we are a Christian organization. We're Christian women. We're pro-life. We're pro-family. We get down on our knees and then we get up and we act. We're advocates for life in our state legislatures, in the federal government. If you look on our website, you'll see pictures of me with our president. We speak truth to leaders. We're the Esthers of our day, and I bet all of you are the same because women have to speak truth. At this moment in time, it is absolutely imperative. In our country, we are down to 1.6 is our replacement rate. I think they said yours was even lower, 1.1. I think that it's really important for us to be honest about motherhood. I have 2 children. My husband and I offered to adopt 2 more, and the teenage mothers ultimately decided to parent them, so we weren't able, but we wanted to, and we were willing. But let's be honest, motherhood is very difficult, and it's very personal. I recently read a quote from a woman in the United States who's an expert and has written about having a child with autism and what her journey was like. And she is desperately in love with her son and an outspoken advocate for children with autism in the United States. And I thought it was so interesting. She said, I wondered if I was alone or if other parents felt the same way I did, that everything involving our children was painful in some way. The emotions, whether they were joy, sorrow, love, or pride, were so deep and sharp that in the end, they left you raw, exposed, and yes, in pain. The human heart was not designed to beat outside the human body, and yet, Each child represented just that, a parent's heart, bared, beating forever outside the chest. You know, I think I'm here with my husband, and I think he can testify that that really was my journey. What I say is that motherhood strips away all the calluses on your heart and leaves it a wide open, gaping wound that allows you to experience love and joy and, yes, the pain of your children in an excruciating way that you didn't experience before. It changes us. Motherhood changed me. I went from a very focused career woman, a woman who had, you know, a lot of pride and about the work that I did, and early on had some success working in Capitol Hill, to being a woman who had her first child and a miracle happened. We have a Christmas show in the United States called The Grinch. And I don't know if you have it here, The Grinch. So you remember when the Grinch, his heart grows 3 sizes, you know, at the end? I think that was actually me. I remember early on in my career, I was very, very focused, and I was doing the pro-life issue. So, you know, it was great work. It was really important work, and it was really everything. I didn't care if I had to work late. I didn't care if I didn't have time on the weekends, because I was fighting for a cause that I truly believed in. But something changed when suddenly my own baby was handed to me in my arms. And I remember walking up Capitol Hill to have a very top level meeting with the Speaker of the House, our House of Representatives, the head of the Senate, and the White House. And on the way, I should have been thinking about what I was going to say in this important meeting, but all I could think about is, it's kind of cold out today. And I had a babysitter, and I wonder if she'll remember to put a sweater on Claire, like she might be cold. And so I'm like grabbing my phone, calling as I'm walking, and you're laughing because you've all been there, right? You know, everything changes and your perspective changes. And guess what? It's so important for a society. It makes us better, but it makes the world better. The world needs women, because women who love who love their children, because it makes us compassionate people. It makes the world less cold. It makes us able to change what needs to be changed. I think sitting in this room, it makes us stronger and understand the importance. You know, I feel so sad when I hear young people say, I'm not having children. And really, if I hadn't been a Christian, I maybe would have been that person, because I really liked life without children. But they don't know what they're missing. And you can't ever tell them, because you really have to experience it. The truth is, we're in a time where the lie that women are replaceable, the unique dignity of women, is being denied. They say that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, and there's literally no difference. That well-intentioned men can use a surrogate and have a child, and it won't be any different. But that's not true. A child, whether she is deprived of her mother by health, by a death, or purposefully, is at a loss. We have to have women. Children need their mothers. I've found in the United States that I think there's really 3 reasons, 3 roots. We're talking about the roots of what has changed and why we've seen this magnificent decline. And I'm sure it's probably more complicated than this, but as a woman who runs a women's organization and specifically sits across the desk from young women crying in my office, this is what I know to be true. First, we have the lack of ability, and that's infertility. And, you know, I'll leave that to the medical experts. Perhaps that'll be a discussion about that. But we know that the second one, which is lack of opportunity, lack of interest, sometimes lead to fertility because it's delayed. And I was not a young mother. I was like 30 years old, but we're finding women later and later and later. But it's not always because of them. Sometimes, and I hear this a lot, that it's lack of opportunity. I hear every day in my office, on the road, talking to women about they want to get married. They desperately want to get married, but they can't find a man. They can't find the right man. And so I think if we're going to talk about the issue of motherhood and the decline that we also have to talk about men being less willing to get married, being willing to get married early, being willing to commit. And so it works both ways. Certainly, I think there's been this sort of thought in the United States that, there was a comment made by a politician about, about cat women, like women who were single and they all had cats. And by the way, that's a real thing because biologically we are driven to love. And I looked this up. I was so shocked by it that in the United States, we spend, I think it's about $150 billion a year on our pets. You don't do the same here. It's a much smaller number. In the United States, it's getting, right? If in the United States, when you walk down the street and see a stroller, you're more likely to see an animal in that stroller, a dog in that stroller, than you are a baby. In my neighborhood, there's more pet stores than there are children's clothing. And there's a reason for that. Our biology demands that we reproduce and that we love, and we're going to figure out a way to do it one way or the other. But again, I think one of the reasons that we're seeing men less likely to step up is that we have a real issue in our nation, and I think around the world, with the proliferation of pornography. And by the way, AI is coming into play now, right? You can just dismiss women and have a fake wife through AI apparently now. It's getting worse and worse and worse. We spend $182 billion in pornography in industry in the United States. And we have the horrible new addition of something called OnlyFans, where it's a cottage industry where young women create their own pornography of themselves and sell it. We have diminished, no wonder we're lonely, right? We've diminished relationships and marriage, and we've made it a commodity at this point. I feel comfortable in here quoting scripture. 1 Corinthians 3:13 says, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spoke as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. It is time for men to put away childish things. It is time for both men and women to take responsibility. You talked about the saying of something about your child staying at home. We call that living in your mother's basement. As much as it hurts when your child leaves the nest, my husband comforted me with the thought that, well, at least he's not living in our basement, playing video games all day, right? You want them to grow up and to leave and to cleave to a wife. I think the final thing I'll say about that is lack of interest. Also, lack of opportunity maybe is one thing, but also I think there's a lack of interest. And as I was walking around and we're seeing these beautiful cathedrals, it just was so inspiring to me. We were in Toledo and Segovia, and it was just magnificent. We don't really have as much of that in the United States. And I was reminded that God says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We are seeking and seeking and seeking in a culture that prioritizes wealth and privilege over commitment and family. And it's easy to get caught up in that. And it's in the United States, it's very expensive to buy a home and to put down roots. And that's all true. But also, we know that in earlier generations, when they were much poorer, they had more children. So part of it is what our culture is telling us. We need to be thoughtful, and I have a couple of policy things to mention about helping young people start out and go and talking to them with compassion, because what they're feeling is real, what they're experiencing is painful. And I would say specifically for young women, I think there's an entire group of them that would love to be married and start having their babies early and have larger families, but they have real issues here. We need to teach them Psalm 127:3. Children are a gift from the Lord. They're his reward. They're not a burden. But as organizations around the nation, we need to encourage our governments to prioritize families. And I think we're starting that conversation now. I don't think we're very far down because, as you said, there's still people in denial. I mean, the zero population kooks that told them we were all going to starve to death because they have too many children now have been proven to be patently false, but yet a few of those still exist. But we're starting to realize that we have another issue, and we've got to really take it seriously. I noticed that Hungary has some great opportunities for young people. They have the baby expecting loan. They have a state-subsidized $30,000 loan in which the funds at the beginning can be used for anything. So you're a young couple, you're starting out, you have a $30,000 loan, you have zero interest for 3 years. Within 3 years, if you have a second child, you get another 3 years, zero interest in that loan. If you have another child within 3 years, it goes to zero. You don't ever have to pay it back. In the United States, our current president, Donald Trump, in his first administration, his daughter, Ivanka Trump, came up with an idea that we still have not finalized, but I think is a great idea. You know, we're talking about we have so many elderly people. In the United States, you pay into a fund called Social Security. And a certain age, I think 72 is I think the normal age, you start to withdraw the money that you have paid into the system. Well, let's be honest. Most people, by the time that you're 72, you've put away a nest egg. You're doing better. Not everybody, but certainly some people. What if a young woman could start to withdraw from that money while she takes off of work, while she's had her child, she's able to stay home, bond with her child, and start to withdraw the money early? And then, it's gone. You don't get it at the end, but at least that you have prioritized, and we have made a way for them for young people who often are two incomes today, right? It's very normal to have a mother and a father working, at least in the United States. So now you're replaced her paycheck for a while where they have a chance to be together. In the United States, we recently gave a $2,000 per child tax credit, and we called it the Big Beautiful Bill. If you know anything about U.S. Politics, President Trump has talked a lot about that. There's many other things policies that if we put our minds together, that I think that we can come up with, and I hope maybe today, by the end, there'll be some concrete ideas to offer for us to take home. But one of the things that I was asked to bring to you, which I mentioned, is that we have an opportunity, and I don't know if in other countries people are as organized in lobbying. I'm told that they're not. But as a group, we're very powerful. Women are very powerful. And at the bottom, this is an issue of the heart. And changing culture takes everyone. And it certainly takes our churches. And not every pastor, I'm an evangelical Christian, or priest, is aware of what we're dealing with. But we can speak to them and urge our local churches to understand, to be a part of this conversation for our young people. We have to change hearts before we can change minds. And we're all in this together. We have to, in order to be a healthy world, we have to take seriously motherhood and the future of our nations and of our world. So I want to just close with Frederick Douglass was a slave from the United States, and he ran away. He became free. He was in the 18th century was a very well-known force in the United States, or 17th century. And his words were, "I prayed for freedom for 20 years, but God didn't answer my prayer until I prayed with my legs." So I would say we continue to pray, but then we get up off of our feet and we actually pray with our legs. So thank you. Also, I brought a little information on CWA in Spanish for people.
Muchísimas gracias, Penny, por lo que has dicho, porque efectivamente las mujeres tienen muchísimo.
Thank you very much, Penny, for what you said. It's amazing to see how empowered women are and how many proposals we have and how many opportunities we have for working together. Thank you very much. And finally, we will have Benigno, who always surprises me, not because of what he says, but because of how original his ideas are and how lovely his proposals are. So please, Benigno, honor us with your words. Good morning. I don't know, honestly, if I am in my best state today, but I will try to share some views. 2,000 years ago, when Christianity was born, one of the biggest novelties that it brought with it was that it was created in a spontaneous way, so as to speak. There were no evidences of how Christianity was born at the very beginning, and they understood that the body was something that was very important, and the minds were also important, and they understood that when in marriage, sexuality was part of life. They understood that life was important. Before Christianity, life was not valued enough. It wasn't valued in the same way. And in the classic civilizations, as for example, in the Roman culture, men or women had children because they for the Romans itself, this very fact. And when we see this in the Bible and in different documents that come from this first cycle and this second cycle of the Roman Empire, those letters that we have found when Christians said, I don't know why you are chasing us and why are you trying to end us, because we're not so different from you. But the Christians would not expose children to any harm, and they would not be legally exposed as well, for example. To let a newborn die, for example, if they didn't want that child, that was illegal for the Christians, and it wasn't illegal for the Romans. So there were some differences, in fact, some differences. And sexuality was one of those differences, because sexuality was looked at as something that was a way of opening to life. And this was not systematic. This was something that just became reasonable because they had faith. And the first Christians, I'm sorry, I need more water. I think I might drink all the bottles in the room. Why do I think that the first Christians saw this so clearly? Because Jesus Christ, didn't speak about this much, but they saw it clearly because the essence of identity in Christianity was to be the daughter and the son of God. And that person you're marrying, your spouse, is also a daughter of God. It's not about sexuality. It's about having a beautiful relationship with another son, with another daughter of God. And because of that union, God gives us children through that relationship. And that is how Christians began to see life and sexuality. And that is why the rejection of our bodies is just not right. Because this body was gave to us by God. And through law and through this marriage, I can create more human beings that will also be children of God. And how valuable is that? We are creating a child of God. Then, of course, there are the bad guys, yes. But conceptually, they understood how Christians saw marriage and saw life. And this is how Christianity introduced this novelty to the world with an ethical conscience and awareness of sex, of sexuality. Before, it was just about getting laid, but Christians, they introduced this consciousness, this awareness, and they started valuing positively sexuality. There were some that would be more platonic or more, more liberal. But for the main part of Christianity, there was this moral conception of understanding sex as personal happiness. It's not a market. It's not a good. It's just something beautiful that God offered us. And that is why Christians understood the ethics of sexuality, the good things about sex, the bad things about sex, things that were never spoken about before. And that is why the first revolution, the first feminist revolution happened back in the day, because Jesus Christ valued women. And they also always said that women had to consent to marriage. How wouldn't they? That is something that we also introduced as Christians. Before, women were just goods that we could take and refuse. Like a man could choose a wife and then return it to the parents if he didn't want her anymore. And we introduced this ethical consciousness, and we understood fully and seriously how important it was to accept this as something valuable. However, if we go forward in history, modernity got sexuality out of our consciousness, out of our awareness, out of our morals, and we had an involution in this sense, under a theoretical liberty and freedom where I can do what I want, whenever I want, because it's in my power to do so. And on top of that, as we advanced in history in the 20th century, in the 21st century as well, that space that was occupied by our morals in terms of sexuality has been substituted by this market of sexuality. And this introduction of sexuality in our morals also implies that the person is aware of that. And those are not the criteria of the market nowadays, right? So they just don't match. And that freedom of the body and of sexuality is getting inside of us as well, in our decisions, and making decisions for us in some cases. And the body becomes a good that can be merchandised. Aesthetics, surgery, for example, as well, becomes a trend. You need to have a body that is available for the market and that is likable by the rules of the market. For example, we can't age. We don't allow us to age gracefully because that is the end of our attractiveness in the market and for the market. That is what is happening and what we are seeing now. And if you want to have children, you can go to a clinic. And if you don't want to have them, you can go for an abortion. It's all in the market. If you don't like your sex or your gender, just change it. It's also in the market. And we could continue. Thank you. And the logic behind the market has nothing to do with ethics, because the market is just, I'm offering you something for consumption, and I am incentivizing your desire of consuming it. I'm asking you to consume it very fast so that you can also fast go back to desire. And you are stuck in a loop voluntarily all of a sudden. And if they can, they create this need for whatever it is every and each 24 hours. Every day you have the need of doing whatever the market offered. Either if you're young or you're old, it doesn't matter because there are different products, different merch that will be offered to you and that will make you feel and fall in that loop. And that is the situation and the crisis we are living in now, which comes together with the trends, ideological trends that have a lot to do with the gender ideology, for example, which is nothing but the affirmation of my body being not part of my personality. I decide my sexuality and I can change it. The gender itself, the word gender instead of sex, is already a market product. It's just something that comes with the ideology, the gender ideology, and we're living it with the problem of trans minors, for example. We are living campaigns making minors doubt of their own sex in order to offer them solutions, just as to speak, that come by the hand of pharmaceuticals. What a business, right? And people don't even know what is happening because they are selling it to us as if it was just part of this freedom and this liberty that we have now to do whatever we want, whenever we want. And when we reject it, we find ourselves back in our ethics and in our morals. But when we refuse to stand inside of our morals and our values, we find ourselves carried away by the trends and by that market, back to sex being a product. And we all become part of the system. We can't return to a beautiful maternity, to a beautiful motherhood, if we can't bring back the appreciation for a good sexuality, especially in the case of women, which is the body that will allow us to actually become mothers and to become fathers. If we don't do that, if we don't start for that, we won't be able to get rid of the burdens that come with this new market style world. And pornography, for example, is another way they get to us, activating the same circuits as if we were abusing cocaine. It's the same kind of drug. It activates our brain the same way. Benedict XVI, former pope, was a very smart man, and he said, I'm finishing, don't worry. He said, and he developed this idea in his speech, explaining that the modernity would profit from ex Deus daretum, live as if God existed, because modernity had the slogan of Si Deus non daretur, living as if God didn't exist. And that is how we have reached this point in history, and that is how we find ourselves, and we are in this crisis. How beautiful it would be, as Benedict said, to get used to look at society as if God was looking at us as well, as if God was there. Even for atheists, it would compensate them. It would be good for them to look at society, to look at the world as if we had God also taking care of us and looking at us. We could see how beautiful everything is, how wonderful this world is, and how we could change the world. And we would start valuing loyalty, fidelity, maternity, because we are building those children of God with our bodies. And that is the most important thing that we can have ever. Si Deus daretum. If God exists, if we live as if God existed, we can reach a world that is worth it. And we are not trying to impose our views or our religious views. It's just trying to improve the way this world works and improve the way we value the best qualities in this world. Like, we are becoming machines, and finally we will see the world as if we were souls. And beyond politics, beyond legal frameworks or policies, even if everything is important, but this deep crisis we're in, we can't change only with laws or with acts or with measures. We will not end with abortion, changing the legal code or the civil code, for example. We first need to value life and understand the value of life. And through that and understanding this, and I am a specialist in law, and I'm a lawyer, but I do know that politics are not the tool right now to get rid of this crisis. We need to focus on souls. We need to be bold, offer bold ideas, and show everyone with our own way of living that it is worth it. How would Christians convince Romans? They would showing them how they cared for each other. and how they loved each other. And that is so attractive for every human being. They tried to help Romans, and they tried to ask those pagan priests understand that life was to be lived in the best way and in a beautiful way. And there is this whole work, very immediate, that is done in the daily nature of life, of transmitting what we have in our hearts. And that is the substrate that we have for creating the life that will finally reach power in the 21st century. We need to do it changing the hearts in order to create majorities that will offer this change in the souls. And if we need to accompany it with laws, of course, and with measures and with policies, yes. But the process starts with the souls and the hearts. Pope Francis said that Christians, the first Christians, knew that it wasn't about becoming important or getting to power, but to generate dynamics in time, which fruits we would probably never see in our time. But we know that we are creating this dynamic that in time will harvest the fruits that we seeded. It's not about immediate results. It's about immediately starting with our daily lives and with our families and showing off how love works and how important it is, and living that reality. And that is why I believe and I think, and with this I will end, that as the popes said, in family, church has its future. Because in families is where this really happens. This love really happens. With no theories or theoretical discourse. No, we just love each other in the families and we just support each other, and that is a real power of revolution. And we need to treat it as something that is personal, not political. Because families are not part of politics, they're part of the personal and daily life of society. And there is where we need to focus to create that solidarity, as efficient as it is, and where we also have our children. And that is why we need to focus on families and take care of ours, as well as helping others to take care of theirs. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Benigno. This takes us to the end of this round table. We will have a break for coffee now. Please, if you have any questions, just try to find our speakers there at the coffee break. However, I really wanted to just comment briefly on the end words of Benigno, because I would like to close with another quote from another Pope, Leon XIV, because every speaker has told us about our dignity and about maternity and this motherhood and the awareness and the coherence that there is behind it, loving our families, loving our lives, and reformulating freedom, the real sense of freedom. And that is why Leon XIV, in his speech on the 9th of January, He said the light is the deep, third vision of the world that we need to appreciate, and how family rejects any kind of exploitation of life in its development, and the light for these challenges, for example, euthanasia or abortion or surrogated pregnancies. We need to reaffirm that the strength of the right to life is established above any other right, any other human right, because a society is only healthy and developed when we protect life in it and we promote it actively. And with those words from our Pope, I would like to thank all of our speakers for their incredible interventions and views, and for sharing them, and obviously all the attendees. Thank you very much. We are not going to ask for a doctor, but we are close to, because I can see poor Benigno suffering a bit. Okay, so thank you very much.